hello everybody. In this video I'm going to go ahead and give you an introduction to the fundamentals of dimensioning. What we're going to be doing in this class a lot of the times is we're going to be creating multi-view drawings, and so if I right click bell ringer 21, this part, I can end up creating a drawing of this. Now by default you will want to always use ANSI _A _inch DWT. You'll want to click 4 views. What we're going to do later on in the semester is we're going to create a custom title block, but this is going to bring up one of the already made title blocks for us. Basically in this drawing area, this is where we can end up creating our multi-view drawings and fully dimension them out. Just from the start, we want to go ahead and left click on this part and then right click, and then we want to click show shaded view. Additionally, some other things that we always want to do while creating a dimensioned multi-view drawing is we want to ensure that we have all of our lines showing up. So we do want to show hidden lines as well on any views that have hidden lines on them. These have hidden lines. Why is that? Because there's a circular or cylindrical cutout on the top, and then also there is this cutout on here on the bottom. And so as you can see here, we can see this square cutout on the bottom shown up here, and this is actually the bottom of this cylindrical cutout here. Also on the top there is a hidden line, however it does not show up because there is an object line here. Object lines always take precedence over hidden lines. What we additionally want to end up doing is we want to end up putting in some center lines. So what we can do is up here we can click this drop down, we can click the edge to edge center line. That's always my go-to. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to click this edge and this edge. That's going to create the center line right there. Over here in this view we can create the center line here as well. That's going to be depicting the center cylindrical cutout. And then here we're also going to do the same thing. We're going to click the edge to edge center line, and then what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and click here as well as here. Now you'll see that that will render the center line in between these two edges. What I'm also going to do is click here and here to also make sure that that center line shows up. Now what we are going to do is we want to end up looking at the dimensioning guidelines flowchart. And so how a flowchart works is we begin here and then we follow the arrows. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue to follow these steps. Now at any point, if we end up getting asked a question, we want to either select no or yes as our answer, and we're going to follow the arrows back. One other thing that we do want to end up mentioning as well is there are these guidelines as well to follow while we are dimensioning. They want us to match dimension precision to measurement precision. In this case, let's say that I end up going through here and I dimension out this overall height. As you can see, this ends up going out to the thousandths place of an inch. Now one tool that we talked about that measures out to the thousandths place is the dial caliper. So we will be under the assumption that we ended up creating this part, we measured this out by using a dial caliper to find these dimensions, and we created it off of that. That process is known as reverse engineering. So they also mention only dimension a view that accurately shows a feature, and so in this case we're going to be putting on the dimensions primarily in this front view here. Then they've also got these other ones, never dimension to a hidden line. So in this case you would never want to end up doing this where I dimension this height here, I dimension that. That is a big no-no. So if you press escape, you can end up clicking on this and then we'll backspace and delete that. Also, we want to make sure that we do not under-dimension or over-dimension. Under-dimension means that you don't have enough dimensions for the part. Over-dimension is we give the part's dimensions way too much. We also want to make sure we do not cross dimension lines. We want to leave a gap between extension lines and object lines. Thankfully, this automatically happens for us in Onshape. And then we also want to avoid crossing leader lines. Leader lines we're going to be talking about very, very shortly. So what we want to do is first begin by creating a complete multi-view drawing. That's what we just created here. Then what we want to end up doing is we want to count the number of features. So if I end up going onto here, we can end up counting the number of features. Now, if we look at this part, we see that there's this cutout here, that's 1. There's another cutout here, that's 2. There's also this cylindrical cutout, that's 3. And then there's also this square cutout down here on the bottom, that is 4. Now, the one thing to mention is that we do have a center line here, meaning that this side is actually equal to this side. So really, we've got to dimension out this feature. If we dimension out this feature, it's going to automatically dimension out this feature because these are symmetric. Then we've got the circle as well as this square cutout here at the bottom. So this is actually going to be the case where we're going to end up dimensioning out 3 features because of the symmetry of this part. Moving on, so we have 3 features, right, that we need to end up dimensioning. We're going to select the best view to represent each feature. That is most of the time going to be the front view here. Now what we want to do is dimension each feature's size and location. So now in terms of this, let's go ahead and let's begin with dimensioning out this circle. Let's start with that. This is one of the things that on the bell work you did not end up getting the dimension of this or the location of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press D on the keyboard. That brings up that dimension tool, and I clicked on this to dimension this out. Now what I can do is I can deselect the dimension tool, I can double click here, and then I can end up throwing this in here. Now the through tells us the depth of this actual hole. So we know that it is in diameter 1/2 inch and it goes all the way through the object. Up next, what I want to end up doing is I dimension out the size. Now I want to dimension out the location. Now the location, we know it's in the center of this part, right? So what I can do is I can dimension out the overall width of this. If this hole is occurring horizontally at the center of 2.5, that's actually 1.25 inches away. So we don't actually need to dimension that out. However, the distance from the top of this line to this part, we do need to know that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the center mark as well as that top edge, and I'm going to run a dimension over here. So now we know the size and location of that. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's continue. The next thing that we want to do is we want to see, is every feature fully dimensioned, size and location? No, it's not, because we still have these other parts. So we basically continue in here until we have dimensioned out the size and location of everything. So what other size and locations are we missing? Well, we're missing this guy. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to press D on the keyboard again, and I'm going to actually dimension out the distance here that we've got. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press escape there. I'm going to click this line and then this line, and I'm actually going to dimension this out. Now let me press escape again because I accidentally selected the wrong thing. I'm going to click D, and then I'm going to click this line and this line. And so now we can see this extends out. Now if I keep this in the middle, you'll see that it looks pretty messy, kind of cluttered. So I'm going to end up putting that out here. Now another thing that we can do is in dimension drawings, you can end up declaring something as being typical, which is TYP. If we end up doing that, basically it tells us, hey, all other parts or other lines in here that look around the same size, they're going to actually be the same size. So as we have the center line, basically it's going to tell us, hey, this edge over here, this line is the same size, it's also 1/2 inch. What I can also end up doing is, since it's TYP as well, this does look like this is the same distance here as well, so it's actually telling us, hey, this is also, the height of this is also 1/2 inch. And same thing over here. Now what we want to do finally is we do want to end up giving the dimension from here to here. Now as you can see, this is 1 inch, right? So now what we can end up doing is we can run this. Now if I press escape, I could end up dimensioning out this as well, right? And you can see that that's 1 inch. I'm going to go ahead and press escape on the keyboard because what I'm going to end up doing, because this is 1 inch by 1 inch, we can actually end up throwing in the same thing with this being TYP, because that is similar, right? So we can end up putting in the TYP there. That basically tells us, hey, this line right here, the overall width of this is also the same thing as 1 inch. And so now we've got these dimensions in here. We've got our leader line pointing to this circle, right? That's giving us the whole note. We've also got this part featured, dimension out. We've also got this feature dimension out. We've also got this feature dimensioned out. The only other thing that we want to end up doing is we've got all of our features dimensioned out, right? So yes, do we have the overall dimensions of the object in there? Well, that is something that we'd want to check. We have the overall width, we have the overall height. However, do we have the overall depth? We do not. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and dimension out this overall depth here, because we do want to have that as well. And so now we have the overall dimensions of width, height, depth. We also have all of our parts dimensioned out. Now what I'm noticing is that there is this part up here that doesn't have anything dimensioned. So let's take note of that and let's move on to this next part. They end up asking us in this flowchart, does every view have more than or equal to 1 dimension? If yes, then we're done. But if no, then what we want to do is we want to actually delete that view. Well, hey, isn't this the case that we don't have a dimension on this part? So what I want to do is I want to actually delete that one out. And so now we can ask ourselves that question again, because we should end up going through here. Does every view have greater than or equal to 1 dimension? Yes, that is the case. This one has 1 dimension thrown on there. So we're good, and basically we have ended this. And so now this is the case where we have our drawing dimensioned out. What we can also additionally do is you can right click this. You can always rename this as well. So I've got it named as Bellringer 21 drawing. So I'm going to press enter, and then in this case you're good to go for your dimension drawing here. All right, hope that was helpful. Thank you all so much. Bye bye.